Hola, hermosa familia. So, before the astrology, I really want to name the elephant in the room right now. The dread is real. Like shit is burning. It's really, really burning right now. You know this feeling like when you open up your phone and there's this like pit in your stomach before the screen even loads? Like when you already know what the headlines are going to say, but you check anyway because at least the scrolling feels like you're doing something, right? That's where a lot of us are right now. And I include myself in that. All the while, we have a spicy new moon in Aries arriving on my birthday, April 17th, with 6 planets stacked in the same sign, and Chiron as well, if you want to call that a planet. It's a minor planet, just so y'all know. And now, every astrologer is going to call this moment a fresh start because it's a new moon, and they're not wrong, but they're also not saying the whole thing. The question this lunation is asking is not, how are you feeling? We all know how we're feeling by now. The question is, at what point do you respond? Because there's a difference between absorbing the crisis and responding to the crisis. And that difference is the entire spine of this new moon. Desire versus desire in action. And I think most of us have been living in the first one a lot longer than we want to admit, right? Actually, let me back up for a second here. Because here's what's actually happening with 6 planets in Aries at the end of the sign. This concentration of fire is asking you to make a move. And making a move is different from starting something new, right? Starting something new implies a plan, a vision, knowing roughly where you're headed. And Aries, by design, has never worked that way. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, the first point of the entire wheel. This is the part of the chart that exists before there's any context about what comes next. And Aries goes first because someone has to. To illustrate my point, you know how sometimes you're at a restaurant and you've read the menu like 3 times and everyone else has ordered and the waiter is standing there and at some point you just have to pick? Well, that's Aries, except it's your life and the menu is infinite and there is no waiter but yourself. There's just you and the moment and the decision to move. Now, how long have you been waiting to know what's on the other side before you move? Because the honest answer under this new moon, under 6 planets in Aries, is you don't get to know first. Aries has never worked that way. The trust you're looking for isn't something you find before you started. It's what accumulates on the other side of action, on the other side of doing every single time. And I think that's what's been keeping a lot of people stuck and still, right? The desire is there to do something. And for a lot of people, the desire is extremely clear. They know what they want. They feel it. They've described it in detail to their friends, their journal, their therapist, their group chat. But the leap hasn't happened because there's been this quiet waiting for enough certainty to justify the action. And Aries breaks that because with Aries, you're going somewhere first. You're mapping the territory as you move through it. And that is supposed to feel clunky. It is supposed to feel weird. The awkwardness of the first attempt, the first step, is the signal that you're doing something genuinely new. And that's what newness feels like. And genuinely new things are clunky before they're fluid. That's how they work. Now, stay with me here because before we even get into the cards for this lunation, I got one question for you. What move has your desire been motivating you toward? The step you haven't taken yet because you don't know what's on the other side. That question lives right at the center of this lunation, and we'll come back to that later in just a second here. But first, let's talk tarot, baby. Let's talk tarot. So the Fool card came to mind as I was contemplating this lunation. I'm talking about the Fool standing at the edge of a cliff, foot lifted, looking, if anywhere, at the horizon. There's this card, right? Plus 6 planets in Aries, the first sign, the initiator. This is Fool energy at its most concentrated. First time energy. It's pure. It's completely uncharted. And the Fool's particular power in its card is that drop. The drop off that cliff is real. And the Fool knows it. And still, they decide to take that first step. Still, they decide to leap. The view shows the drop. That's all it ever shows you. But that step, that first step into the unknown, that first step, that's the only way you'll ever find out what's on the other side of anything. And before you go, Daniel, that sounds reckless. That sounds like too much. Trust and believe, my love. You're more prepared than you think. I mean, look at what the Fool is actually carrying. Everything. They have a pack. They have everything they've collected, everything they've built, everything they've earned is in that pack on their back. They're leaping with everything they already have, all of it. It's all in there. And that's where the second card comes in, which is the card associated that actually governs this new moon degree. And it's the Four of Wands. Now, this lunation lands in the third decan of Aries, the last 10 degrees, right before we cross into Taurus energy. And the decan card is the Four of Wands. Look at what's actually on this card. Four wands are driven into the ground. Stakes, acts of will planted in the earth. And what's growing on them? Garlands, flowers, life. And here's the thing I keep coming back to with this image is that the wands are spears, their fire, their will, their assertion, and life wrapped itself around them. Because that's what life does when someone is willing to hold their ground. It starts growing on whatever you were brave enough to plant. And you know how sometimes you build something and you didn't even realize what you built until you stopped and you turned around and you looked at it? You've been so focused on the next thing and the next thing that you forgot to look at what's already standing and what's started. That's the Four of Wands. 4 stakes in the ground with flowers growing on them that you almost missed because you were already looking at the next horizon. Now, the 4 wands are what you built when you decided to start something new and you stuck with it. This is when you drove your stake into the ground and said, I'm here, and the garlands are proof that something grew because you were willing to stick to something, to hold that ground. So this is the Fool picking up that pack with everything already filled up in there, looking at everything they've made real over the past months and years of spiritual awakening and dark night of the souling and awakening again, prepared to take the next step. And here's what's interesting about this card as well, the Four of Wands. The ruler of this decan is Venus in Aries. She's impulsive here. She's slightly chaotic. She's trying to make beauty happen in the sign of war. And results are imperfect. They're human. They're real. And the beauty of the Four of Wands has never been polished. It's garlands on spears. It's flowers in a war zone, something that only exists because someone was willing to fight for the ground it needed to grow on. And I want you to sit with that for a second, because I wonder if some of you have been looking at what you built since this emotionally charged and psychic Pisces era we lived in, just experienced, and you're not counting it. You know, Neptune and Saturn in Pisces cost us more than we expected. And the Four of Wands says, look how far you've come. Look at all that will, the bravery of it all. It took courage to claim this selfhood you stand upon now. Even amidst collapse, life is blooming all around you. You confronted change with expansion, and the imperfect thing you've built on the stake you were brave enough to plant, well, the Fool sees it, to which the Fool says, it's time for another adventure now. This stop is a temporary stop for the next adventure. Now, the other thing I want to note here is Chiron, the wounded healer. Chiron is at almost the exact degree of this new moon. I'm talking about 27 degrees of Aries, this asteroid, the wound that becomes the medicine. Now, Chiron has been in Aries with us since 2018, and it's been igniting a very specific wound, and it's the right to exist, the right to take up space, the right to act, to say out loud with your feet moving, I'm here and this matters, and I'm going to do something about it. And this new moon is conjunct that wound. The initiation and the wound are at the same degree. And you know what that's like? You know that feeling of starting something you know is going to open something sore? Like when you have a conversation you've been putting off for months and you can feel the weight of it in your chest before you even open your mouth and you go anyways, you say the thing anyways because the silence is costing more? Well, then that's this new moon. It's the courage to begin again, even while knowing everything that it takes to begin anything. Without the innocence of that first time, that first spiritual awakening, without the adrenaline of the first emergency, this color of courage is harder to integrate, but it's not impossible. The wound is not a reason to stop. The wound is the part that gets turned into medicine. Same experience lived out in different ways. And here's where the transits bracket it. Both of these transits really matter. 5 days before this new moon, Mars meets Neptune, the warrior who doesn't know who to fight, Mars, and the dreamer who doesn't know how to move, Neptune. So there's a creative tension in that. The gift is action born from vision rather than ego. This is the athlete who's in the zone, the activist who moves from love rather than anger. But of course, the shadow here is a person so convinced of their vision that they stop checking if reality is agreeing with them. And 2 days after the new moon, Mars meets Daddy Saturn. Daddy Saturn. This is where you get exactly what you've earned. The warrior who trained for this moment all of a sudden shows up. And the one who was or has been fucking around absolutely finds out. So this new moon is sitting between those two conjunctions, the visionary impulse on one side and the reckoning with reality on the other side. And the new moon itself is the moment in between, the fool's foot, like slowly lifting, ready to take a leap. What determines which version you step into is whether you're acting from genuine vision or whether you've been waiting at the cliff so long that you've let fear get in the way of taking that first step in the first place. Ultimately, what all this energy boils down to is at what point do you respond? And I'm asking you that directly. At what point do you participate in this collective moment we're in? Because the dread we talked about at the top of this video, the thing that's sitting in a lot of people right now, I think part of why it sits so heavy is because a lot of us know. We know we're not doing enough. And I include myself in that. And look, I get it. People hear Aries and suddenly their energy gets reduced to fire, just impulse, chaotic, reactive, just go. But it goes much deeper than that, you know. There's a difference between reaction and response. Reaction is drunk on anger. It's blinded by rage. It's impulsive, sometimes creating chaos. Response is something else. Response is informed reaction, calculated reaction, aware reactivity. And the transits are literally teaching this right now. So which one are you going to be? Are you going to be reactive or are you going to be responsive? Because look at what's happening right now. In the first 2 weeks of April alone, 6 warehouse fires broke out across the United States in 5 days. 6 of them. One of them was a man in Ontario, and he filmed himself lighting pallets on fire, posted it, and said all you had to do was pay us enough to live. And then he compared himself to Luigi Mangione. And I think we need to sit with that for a second here, because this is the pendulum we're dancing around right now. This is Aries energy, Mars energy, the energy of enough, God of war. It's a breaking point. And sometimes those breaking points are violent. But what is violence? You know, is it Luigi Mangione who killed the healthcare CEO? Or is it the hundreds of thousands of lives lost every day because the company that CEO ran denies coverage to the people who need it most? Is it the person who burned down a warehouse? Are they violent? Or is it the billions pocketed by the people at the top while the workers they profit off of can barely survive on what they're being paid? Is it more violent to resist being arrested indiscriminately because of the color of your skin, to be labeled a domestic terrorist, or to wipe out and genocide an entire population? You see, the violence has always been there. And as uncomfortable as it is to look at the reality of it right there in front of our faces, we have no problems making movies about it, TV shows, video games. We consume it constantly. It's always been here. And to look away right now is impossible. And look, I'm not calling for more violence, but I am looking at how and why people reach a breaking point and respond in the way they do. When the cries and the grief and the dignity of the people go far too long ignored, when the oppressive boot continues to apply pressure on our necks, at what point do you react or respond or else face elimination? I don't know. These power dynamics are what Aries is all about. This whole world is made up of them. In nature, we see it, the circle of life. And we are not separate from that conversation. Even now, we are not separate from the natural cycles of life. Mother Nature responds. If something is poisoned to the balance she strives to hold, she extracts it. Is that cruel? Or is that the immune system of the living world doing its job? And here's the thing that gets skipped in most astrology content. This idea that the world is just constantly at peace with itself. That's never been true. Look at the world around you. Look at the animal kingdom. Life itself is in constant tension with itself as a means of restoring balance. Very much Aries energy. And the discernment here matters because I'm not calling for war's sake, but war to defend life itself, reacting in that way. I'm curious because in many ways, that's a revolution right there. But they want us docile. They want us compliant. They want us so overwhelmed by the atrocities and the crimes they're committing that we can't move. Because if we're depressed, if we're emotionally dysregulated, if whatever response to what we're feeling is keeping us from just doing something, then they get to maintain their power. All the many ways our energy, our feelings, our drive has been co-opted by distraction and conflict. All of that is designed to keep desire as desire, to keep the wanting in the wanting phase, because desire that moves is hard to harvest. Now, a desire that just scrolls, very easy to harvest. And those rules they're playing by, whoever they are, those are our rules too. Rules we all have access to, rules we get to make as well. And look, I don't know the solutions. I'll be the first person to say that. But I know what it's like to not do enough. I know that feeling. As an Aries sun, I understand that in me. And for some of us who don't have all that fire energy quite naturally, who don't feel it instinctually, we have to exercise that muscle a little more. But it's not impossible. Nothing is impossible. These solutions are not impossible. And that is very Aries energy. At one point or another, we have to respond. We have to react or else submit. So what's your move? Why so stuck? And the answer is so simple and yet so uncomfortable at the same time. We have to grieve, y'all. We need to grieve that life is not going to return to the way it used to be. And I don't mean that dramatically. I mean it practically. You know how sometimes you go back to a place you used to love and it's different now? And you spend the whole visit looking for the version you remembered instead of seeing what's actually there? That's what a lot of people are doing with their lives right now. Looking for the shape they remember. And the old shapes aren't coming back. Clearly, the frameworks that felt stable, institutional, political, interpersonal, the rules about how things were supposed to work, those structures are shifting into something else completely. We are in uncharted territory right now, and that so happens to be an area in which Aries energy thrives. None of this is by coincidence. Everything is by design right now. This whole waiting for things to feel recognizable again before you move. That's what this new moon is asking you to put down. So grieve this moment. Actually, let yourself feel what it means to let familiarity die. Let the acceptance of this truth that the old world is dying clear the ground for a new one. And then once you've felt this, once you've allowed this wave to move through you, ask yourself one question. Where to next? What's the thing you've been talking yourself out of because you don't know what's on the other side? And then take one step, baby. Just take one step at a time. There's no need to rush. Take one step, baby, before it's a plan, before it has a strategy. Instead of attaching yourself to the stories of why you can't, how about why you could? The first move, make it, whatever that is, even if it feels clunky and early and weird, because with Aries, with the Fool at the cliff, with the Four of Wands saying, look at what your courage already built, with Chiron saying the wound is not a reason to stop, this knowing that we're reaching toward comes through movement. You're going to feel like you're doing it wrong. You're going to feel like you got there too early and everything is uninformed and you should have waited for more certainty. And that feeling is exactly correct because it's new. This is all new. We haven't done this before. That's what it feels like to arrive somewhere before anyone else has a map for it. You don't need more information before you begin. You just need to begin. That's what Aries energy is all about. Gosh, I love astrology so fucking much. I love it. 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 Alrighty. Well, there you have it, y'all. If this landed for you, if something in here named a move you've been holding back, well, I really want to hear about it. Drop it in the comments below. What's the first step you're taking under this new moon? And if you're ready to go deeper into your specific transits, into what this stellium is actually activating in your chart, well, then come find us in the collective. We're working through all of this energy together. The link is in the description below. Oh, and I'm starting my 6-week elemental fire cohort. This is a 6-week deep dive into Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius energy and how to integrate these archetypes into our everyday lives. Spaces are limited. Info is down below as well. Hasta la próxima, amor. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other and be brave. Be bold. Bravery is found in action, my loves. Just take that step and watch how the universe supports you in the process of all of that. I love you so much. You got this. I'll see you in the next one.